All right, I think we have enough people in here that we can begin. And the first question, this is live on cb.substack.com. I'm Chris
Yeah.
Best, CEO. This is my co-founder, Jairaj, who's the CTO. I've realized I should start explaining who the fuck we are to people who might happen
Well,
just
they
to be
know who
tuning
you
in.
are.
And maybe. Uh, Today we are talking about secrets of the Substack algorithm with the man himself, who is the secret master of the algorithm. And the first question I wanted to ask you is, why does Substack even have an algorithm? And what am I talking about when I say that?
That's a good question. Um, Substack has an algorithm. I mean, in short, because there's no other way to do it. You know, if at the end of the day, you're going to open up the app and you want to discover and connect with the people you care about. At the end of the day, it's like we're going to show you something, and the question is, well, what's the logic that determines what you see? What order does it show up? And how do you choose those things? You could decide to just make everything in chronological order. And honestly, that kind of works. I remember that used to work for me for certain things when I was reading like literally one thing at a time. Or if you're like, I open up my chat app and it chronological is great because like I'm not being bombarded by a million people or whatever. But at a certain point, if you actually do want to connect with the people you care about and have a interface that can do that well, it's going to have some logic that's a little smarter than that. That's why everybody has an algorithm. But I imagine you were trying to ask me a question one click deeper than that.
Well, so everybody has an algorithm, but maybe that's a bad thing. Substack is about, subscription. It's about being able to proactively connect with the things I care about. Wouldn't it
Yeah.
be enough just to you know, show me my subscriptions and then that's it? Isn't that more what Substack should be doing?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just answering someone in the chat. Oh no, I can do that with my voice. Why am I typing? Sorry, I'm such a noob at this. Like this is so bad. Somebody in the chat says like you love the idea of the chronological thing. I think some people do, and we have the following tab for exactly that. Like just show me the people that I explicitly will connect with, put it in chronological order. But I think through revealed preference and experiments and just like which products people use in the world, that's not the default for just the vast majority of people. There's another thing that people find more compelling. And so at the end of the day, everything's going to come down to like, I said earlier, what's the logic by which this thing is ordered? Well, it kind of depends on what your goals are as a company, as a product, for the people you're trying to serve. Like, what do they care about, and like, how are you trying to serve them? I think people have a lot of negative views on the word algorithm because there are a lot of giant major products on the internet. There was a whole era of the internet where that came to prominence, and all of the big companies and products who were associated with that were all these advertising companies. So when you think about, they've got an algorithm, they're deciding what to show you and in what order. What are they trying to serve? They're trying to serve their real customers who are advertisers. It's not you, the person who's using this every day, and they've got this tension in their mind that they've got to balance between what's how do I order everything in a way that's so good for advertisers that's going to cause them to make spend the most amount of money on their platform and blah blah blah, while at the same time keeping you around to keep scrolling and to see more of those ads so that they can do that. So I don't think, I don't, if I go the one click deeper, I don't think algorithms are bad. I'm just like, well, what are you optimizing for? Right? Who are you trying to serve really? And in our case, it's like we're trying to serve readers, writers, creators of all kinds. And what I hope that what our thing is doing is like connecting you with those people. You come to Substack, you're subscribing, you have these high signal relationships. They're people I literally pay to be in their orbit and to be a part of their community. And I'm like, when I open this up, that algorithm should be helping me connect with those people, helping me discover those people, and all of that kind of stuff. I think another thing to think about with this stuff is like what signals you're using to make sense of this. I think if you're, let's say you're one of these advertising feeds, the signals you're using are, do you keep scrolling? Like at the end of the day, that's the business they're in. The more you scroll, the more ads you see, the more money they make. That's the game they're going to play. And for us, it's like, do you scroll is some signal, but it has nothing. It's pretty detached from like, are you getting value out of this? Are you connecting with the people you care about? You having any agency in this? Um, and for us, there are other things in here. It's like, maybe if I take one step backwards, it's sort of like, at the end of the day, if the thing you care about is connecting with your favorite writers and creators, and the ones that are most significant in your life as cultural creators, like, what's the journey by which you went to discover them and to go deeper and all that kind of stuff. If I think about some of my favorite creators, I've said this a million times. um, I'm a huge fan of Carl Sagan. That's maybe obvious for a nerdy person like myself. um, but like, if I think about how I discovered him and then ended up owning a couple of his books, it's not at all that like, I went to an algorithm and then it showed me a recommendation. The robot says you should read this book. Maybe the robot would have been right, but I had to go on a journey to get there. And the journey for me was one of my closest friends for my birthday bought me a book and gave it to me. And I was like, "Oh, I've heard of this Carl Sagan guy. I'm not that interested." But I didn't say that to my friend. I just got a gift. And so I was the opposite, where I'm like, because of the nature of the situation, I was open to it. And I was like, "Damn, I got to read that first chapter at least." Like, talk to my friend about this. And then by doing that, I discovered that this is cool. I read the rest of the book. I'm like, "Oh shit, what else does he write?" I'm like, "Oh man, he's got videos. Let's go watch those." And you end up just going down the rabbit hole, falling in love with the thing. And there's a whole journey by which you go through that. And coming back to this, I'm just like, it's like, our algorithm needs to take me on that journey. And it's a non-trivial and non-obvious thing about what you need to optimize for to like help people along that path. There's the, oh man, did you actually connect me with somebody that I might care about in the right context? Am I getting opportunities to go deeper with them? That I really love this person, like, and like maybe they write stuff, but then, oh, they made this video over there, or they went on that other person's podcast. Like, I want to know about that if I'm really that deep with this person. I feel like our algorithms really got to like serve you on each part of that, because again, at the end, as the subscriber, that's what I want. That's what makes this whole thing compelling to me in the first place.
So you're kind of saying, look, an algorithm is a means to an end, and it's
Yeah.
always optimizing for something. There's always
Oh,
some goal that the algorithm has in mind, and that's almost like what it's, that's the objective function they call it, but that's like the goal that it's pursuing. And the right question to ask is not, is there an algorithm or not? The question to ask is, how well is the algorithm serving the goal of you, the user?
yeah.
And on other platforms, there might be tension there created by the fact that you, the user, are not the customer of the product. You're kind of the product itself. We're trying to get you to stick around for longer. Whereas on Substack, the way that you are the customer, you're eventually, subscribing to and potentially paying for things. That's how writers and creators on Substack make money. That's how we, Substack, the platform, makes money. And then when you build an algorithm that has that as its end goal, you're going to do things like try and help you discover things that you will be able to fall in love with, and help you, once you've discovered something, like see the pieces of it that make you want to subscribe, and then make you want to pay, and then make you kind of want to like go deeper on the things that you actually value. And that the end effect of an algorithm like that is something that just feels totally different, feels like a place where you're actually finding the value. That all sounds nice.
Yeah.
What does that mean in practice? Like, how does that change when you're working on the algorithm? Does that actually make you do anything different? Like, how does that change what you do in your work while you're building this thing?
Yeah. That's definitely a good question. I think maybe one thing to think about is the way you need to work on some of this stuff is a little bit indirect. Like, you have to try things, you have to run experiments, you have to find out what works and what doesn't work. And then obviously, like, how you define work is like this whole thing we're talking about, right? What are you in the business of doing? We run experiments like anybody else on our algorithms and on our feed. And you know, a good example is, I talked about what advertising companies are going to have to do to maximize the amount that you scroll. Um, I've run that experiment. Well, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. It was somebody somebody on our team, uh, and we've seen what that can do. And you can certainly optimize machine learning models to cause somebody to show people things that will cause them to scroll more. And theoretically, if you're in the business of selling ads and shoving ads and everything, that would have been a winner. Like if we were somebody else, no, I shouldn't be naming names, but like if we were some other product out there that was advertising based, they would have shipped that experiment because it would have made them make more money. It would have been good for their real customer being the advertiser. And in our case, we're like, oh, actually, like that doesn't lead, that like gets in the way of you reading more long form or finding people that you care about and actually subscribing. It's like we start looking at these other signals that are obviously good for the kind of the health of kind of the network, and we come to a totally different conclusion of like this is terrible, this is not good at all for us. It's not like, yeah, as a subscriber using this thing, this doesn't make me this isn't more compelling to me, and this doesn't connect me more with the people I care about.
So ultimately, we care, is it connecting you with things that you like enough to subscribe to pay for, that are going to like to go deep on reading, that are going to make your life richer in some way? That's good because it matches up with one of the things that writers and creators most want from Substack too, which is discovery, right? I want people to find my work. I want to be able to get new subscribers, and I don't want to be able to just get new subscribers who kind of
Not just
like,
anybody. Yeah.
not just, it's not just like
Yeah.
give me some random email. It's like I want to reach an audience of people that are actually going to like read and like and potentially pay for and potentially value, build this like really deep audience. So those things, that all sounds great. Uh, does it work for that? Is this happening? Are we actually
Yeah.
driving any subscriptions?
Yes, I mean, the answer to this question.
It's This is what we're
Yeah.
doing here, Jay. We're having a
No,
conversation
no.
where I can ask you the questions the audience might have,
Yeah,
knowing
yeah.
that
No,
the
I,
answer will
I
be interesting.
no, I feel that. Yes, it is working, and it's working uh to the degree where it's actually driving the majority of discovery on the network, right? I think a lot of writers, they can go to their dashboards and they can see exactly how much work this is doing, and you can just use the product, just like feel it, right? The way that you come across things and discover them in our feed is pretty different than any other way that you might come across or discover um, a writer that you might want to subscribe to. And I feel like the scale at which we can get there and match people correctly is can be pretty strong, right? Like, because at the end of the day, what it comes down to is like, can we connect you in the right context to something that you're really going to love? Because that's obviously good for you, and that's good for the creator as well, right?
When you say the Substack app and feed is the biggest source of discovery on
Yeah.
Substack, can you spell out what that means? Does that mean just like
Uh,
it's most people are seeing my notes, or what do you mean by that?
oh, I understand. Yeah, there are a bunch of different aspects of that. There's the basic one, which is like you come across people in your feed. You might see a note by them, and then you click on their profile. I wonder who this is, and then you follow them, and then you'll see them around more often. At some point, you might see posts from them show up in their feed. So we budget a certain amount of the feed for ranking posts, long form things that we think you might be interested in reading, and you know at a certain point, if you read something you love, you're going to subscribe to it, right? And it's like this is kind of what I was talking about earlier about there's this journey. Somebody in the chat said like, is it fair to say that the notes feed is a serendipity engine? I'm like,
Yeah.
that's an idealistic way of saying it. Like I like that as a concept because it's like there's that whole journey I described about like where you're at, and like specific parts of that I'm describing. Like you're gonna come across people who are kind of in orbit of other people that you associate with, and then there's like, man, I followed them, and now I'm seeing things that they wrote, and then maybe you saved a post. I do this all the time. I'm like going through there. There's just too much good shit to read, and I'm just like, oh, I can't read it all right now. I'm gonna save it up, and then on Saturday morning, I wake up and I'm like reading this stuff and I'm starting to subscribe to cool people that I didn't know about before.
So is
But
that
there's
happening? Is the Substack algorithm driving subscriptions?
yes, yeah, I don't know if I didn't say this a couple seconds, but like it's driving about half of all of the subscriptions on the platform. Like it's
And is
pretty
that
big.
just free subscriptions or is it driving paid subscriptions too?
It's driving paid subscriptions as well. I think it's like more than a third of all paid subscriptions on the network are coming through the app.
That's kind of surprising. I think if you're not looking at the the dashboards and the stats, you might intuitively have the sense of like, hey, there's all these giant networks on the internet. There's people that are sharing their work on X and Instagram and
Yeah,
Blue
yeah,
Sky and et cetera, et cetera. How is it that the Substack app, which is wonderful and it's growing, but it's not, yet at the scale of some of, it's not the size of Instagram yet, I'll tell you that. How can it be
yeah.
driving so many subscriptions?
Because they don't care about this. Like that's again, they're not that's not who they're trying to serve with the product they're building. They're trying to serve advertisers. They have other goals in mind, right? Um, and so you do get scale. Like, imagine I'm trying to think what's the biggest. I guess Instagram's pretty big, right? So let's say like Instagram's
It's
gigantic, all right? Like maybe a billion people use it. I don't know what the number is, but like it's gigantic. They're trying to serve everybody at once, but critically, like the way they make money is by showing you ads in that feed, right? Like that's what they're optimized for. They don't want you to leave the app, right? If you're a writer and you want to link out to your business, to your newsletter, or get there's maybe you even connected with somebody who really would really give a shit about what you're doing and they want to connect with you. Instagram wants to get in the way of that. They're like, no, 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 don't let that person leave leave the app and leave this experience. We need them to keep scrolling because that's what makes money. That's at the end of the day, that's what they're all about, right? And increasingly more and more of the networks, the public networks on the internet that are ad funded are doing that. Instagram was
And to be
actually
clear,
just
you're
like
not
this.
saying they're sitting there like evilly tenting their fingers and saying,
No, no, no,
"I
I'm
hate
not saying that at
independent
all.
creators."
No, no, they're doing what's good for their business, right? I again, I have my bias. I don't like those products. I don't use them, but I'm not looking at them like they're conspiring. They're pretty open about what their business model is, right? And so all of them are having to trend down this path if they want to compete with other networks on that basis, right? If you want to be a scaled ad funded feed, in 2024, you actually just have to play that game. I think this is part of why Twitter started doing that as well, right? It's like they're going deeper and deeper down that path and trying to keep up with the TikToks and the Instagrams on that basis. Whereas, coming back to your original question, it's like we're just like not playing that game. Like we have a totally different business model. The people we're trying to serve are actually creators and subscribers, and so it's totally in our best interest to help that connection go along, rather than just try to like hoard people's attention or something like that.
If our algorithm is so great, how come I see a lot of notes in my feed that are like, "Hello, I'm new to Substack," and have some clickbaity, annoying thing, and I see them have like a gajillion likes, and I say that I don't like them, but I keep seeing them.
There are two answers to that question. One is it's not as good as it could be yet. I think that's maybe the long story short. But the other side of it is, we're building something that's pretty valuable and people are getting value out of it. And there are going to be people who are going to try to game it, right? I think we had this in email as well, where, we send many emails a day. As you might imagine, we have an excellent email sending reputation. We put so much effort into having excellent deliverability and all this other kind of stuff. But then the second you have something like that, that's of value, if you're a spammer out there in the world, you're like, oh, damn, like this is a juicy place for me to try to send my spam, right? And so then we have to have this other effort to kind of fight that kind of thing. And so I think, especially as our feed grows and gets more and more value on that basis, that there are going to be people who are going to try to game it, and we're going to have to be thoughtful about how we deal with that.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, sorry, I
Um,
haven't been keeping up with the chat at all. Is there stuff I should have been?
Everyone's been saying really smart things in there and being nice and fun.
Okay, okay,
Um,
nice.
you mentioned, okay, this is more of a less of a Substack algorithm thing and more of a interesting Jairaj lore question, which is Ben Cohen, uh, which is you mentioned that you're not really using a lot of those products. you're not super online and you don't have quite the same severe case of brain rot that I and many of the rest of us have. But you are a pretty big YouTube head. How do you think about
Yeah,
YouTube's place in this ecosystem, and what does that mean for Substack?
that is a really, really good question. Yeah, maybe I'll just tell you my journey with YouTube a little bit, and it's maybe it mirrors some of the journey of why Substack exists, which is that I think YouTube is this gigantic platform. It's if you want to consider it a social network, it's probably the biggest one ever, or something like that. It's just enormous, and there is a lot of stuff on there that I'm not into. I don't like that, you search for stuff and it's got those ridiculous people making weird faces because they think it's good for the yeah, exactly. They think it's good for the algorithm and
Watch our
blah blah blah
algorithm
blah
pick that
blah.
as the thumbnail for
Yeah.
this now.
I don't mind putting a rule that specifically negates that.
No
Um,
YouTube face.
yeah,
No Mr. Beast face.
but okay, but beyond that though, I think YouTube unlocked something on the internet that just couldn't have happened before, and some of the smartest and most interesting people I've ever come across are on there. I am really intentional, and this is pre-Substack. I've always been this way, really intentional about like, wow, there are all these awesome people on YouTube, and hit the subscribe button to them, and I'm like, awesome. And then I go to YouTube.com, and then they don't show me the people that I subscribe to at all because they again they want to maximize my watch time. Um, and I internally have a divide between the things that I will naturally and impulsively watch for hours on end. Like I'll probably watch basketball games for just hours on end mindlessly. And I know I can get into habits with whatever, just wasting lots of time watching things that I don't find enriching necessarily. But then at the same time, this place has like some of the most awesome stuff that I care about. And I hate that I would have to go there and use it on those terms. And what I ended up doing was I just got the RSS feeds of all the creators on YouTube I cared about. And I just like made my own RS reader show them to me so that I could get all of the best creators from that platform, but then not be subjected to YouTube's business model, which pulled me away from them. Right.
It's fun.
Um, but, I think that might change with YouTube because they're deciding to make less of their money from ads. So I can see that changing over time, basically.
I've had this funny thing with my kids where originally I banned them from watching YouTube. They're
Yeah,
allowed to watch like Netflix sometimes. There's like some screen time. And then but like the kids' YouTube is just so like it's such like mind riveting like mind
yeah.
slop that I'm just like you like I just see your brain like
Do
rotting in your little head.
do
But
they show
then
ads
so
to kids on YouTube? Or like
I think they
I've never used it
I
before for kids.
I couldn't swear either way whether the kids YouTube. I would assume that it would, but I don't actually know. But I was like, you can't just like put on, Blippy and then Blippy chains into something crazy. And they're all like these weird there's this certain like these things that just kind of like zoom in and kind of like hack
Yeah,
their little brains and turn them into like goggly eyed things. And so originally I
yeah,
was kind of like, no YouTube. And then the thing that's been happening lately is my son develops these interests
yeah,
and he'll be like, today I want to learn about like where snakes live
yeah,
and or like show me about like how this train works or show me this like he'll have some like interest, some curiosity, something he wants to like learn about or be inspired about. And I've just been like, okay, we're gonna look it up on YouTube. And he's like,
it's
I thought we weren't allowed to watch. And we've developed this concept now of like the good YouTube and the bad YouTube,
yeah, yeah,
where it's
exactly,
like,
exactly.
I'm like, yeah, it's like we're allowed to watch the good YouTube where we like search for something interesting and find this really good thing about whatever you're curious about. But we're not allowed to watch like the bad YouTube where we kind of like put it on and it's these weird,
Yeah,
oversaturated shows of Eastern European families doing hyper compelling toy on wraps or I don't know. It's just like it's crazy. It blows my
yeah.
mind. And you see both. Like you have both sides of that thing. I can see the like
There's
the version that's working against you and the version that's working for you.
exactly, exactly. There's a version that serves my best self, and then there's a version that serves their advertising overlords, and they're at odds with each
Yeah.
other. And like,
And
I
and
wish I
frankly the
didn't have to make
parents,
that
right? I mean,
trade
it's
off, right?
if you're a parent, It's nice
Yeah,
sometimes if your kids sit down and just like turn into zombies for half an hour. It's like, all right. Sometimes like we're on an airplane, like fuck it,
yeah,
that's what we need. But it's not like a way. It's not a way to build your media diet in the whole. I don't think. And I hear this from people who make videos on YouTube too. I've heard from a couple of different people who are actually quite successful YouTubers say something along the lines of, I've got this big audience. I know what I'm doing. There's another kind of creative project I would like to do that I actually think there's an audience for that I think would be good and that I think that people would value, but I basically know that it won't play on YouTube.
right.
There's like
Yeah,
stuff that I can't make because I can't do things that are like not gonna plug well into the
you're not going to reach your
thumbnail
subscribers.
algorithm.
Yeah,
What's that? They're not gonna be just Yeah, you can't.
yeah,
There's not much of a way where you can where an audience can extend trust and say, hey, I'm gonna be with you as you like take a creative risk. I'm gonna like
yeah,
give you some time to watch a video that might not be obvious why it's compelling in the first 30 seconds, but you're kind of going to need to like, you know, go somewhere, take a risk, go somewhere interesting, and I'm going to like be willing to like make an investment and take a journey with
yeah.
you. That feels like a
Because this
missing piece to me too.
Yeah, this is actually a really good point. It's like, sort of like for them, their feed and their algorithm's purpose as the person watching is to connect me with the next video to watch, and then go down a rabbit hole and just like be in autoplay forever and stare at the screen mode. And whether or not you hit that subscribe button is just a signal, right? It's the same as whether or not you hit a like button. It's the same as whatever, right? They don't have the purpose that like uh you building more connections with these creators you care about. It's like that actually is not important to them. It's pretty clear from their behavior. Um, which for me is frustrating because again, there's so many amazing video creators on YouTube. There's just like you're talking about this journey that your son had. I'm like, I'm a lot older than your son. I went on that same journey.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
very cool. All right. Well, is there anything else we should reveal about the Substack algorithm, what we're up to, how it works?
No, I mean nothing else comes to mind.
Do you have
Um,
a Substack where people should subscribe to you?
No, this is why I mean, this is what I was saying earlier, which is that, I can be a guest on things, but I think, don't subscribe to me,
Do
don't
subscribe.
follow me, I will not
Hit the
post
subscribe
anything.
button. It's there. You
Uh,
can subscribe without his permission, and it'll cause him
yeah,
to have subscribers.
that is true, that is true.
All right, sick. Well, thank you very much, Jay, and thank you everyone who tuned in. We appreciate you.
Alright, cool, see ya.